For every opportunity to succeed, there's an equal threat to be destroyed. And oftentimes that threat to be destroyed, it's not an outside force. Have you ever been running down a hill and you just begin to lose your balance, and the momentum of moving forward gets to be faster than your feet can move? Or maybe it's been on a bicycle, or maybe you've seen it on a motorcycle, especially when they're racing. They get that speed wobble. Suddenly, the achievement of success has become the undoing of the achiever.
Welcome to Leading Leaders Podcast. 5-minute videos, 5 days a week.
I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. It's not an uncommon thing when you see a large company. I mean, I've been watching some documentaries this morning on economic development and on businesses as they grow. One of the first documentaries that I watched was on a young runner who was a superstar athlete in high school and in college. She got recruited to run for the Olympics. She was aligned with the best coach in the world. She was brought up to lose weight, build muscle, master the techniques of running fast, and then it turned out that actually what they were doing to make her better was destroying her body rather than making her perform at a different level, because they were training her like you might train a male. A whole lot of different chemistry and body going on there. And eventually she had broken bones and was unable to win, and she finally just walked away from the passion of her life in order to survive. And the next one that I watched was on Toys R Us, and how they went from unknown relatively to the largest toy manufacturer in the world, and then suddenly fell off the face of the earth. They went from unbelievable sales in the late 90s and early 2000s to absolutely gone by 2017. Well, how did that happen? A lot of it happened because their success was predicated on constantly moving parameters. And then the last one would be a look at Amazon. And a look at Amazon that talks about risks due to safety, toy concerns that have been knocked off or imitated, and the imitators are selling as well on Amazon as the real deal, but the price is different and the quality is as well. And so there are a lot of factors that go into your success. But the one factor you cannot abandon, especially as a leader. And can you imagine being the guy at Toys R Us who had to call 32,000 employees? That's the size of a medium to small size city. And tell them all, Merry Christmas. I know it's the first quarter, but you're all without jobs. Oh, and by the way, no severance. Oh, and by the way, no COBRA. See, that's what happens when so many other players start getting in the mix who don't share the same core values. Rather than finding ways to trim the fat, so to speak, and keep the core part of the company going until it can move into a stronger position, all that was left was to close the doors. Now, there was some backdoor dealing, some relationships where people were manipulating the money because they felt like they could win for themselves, regardless of what happened to the company or the toys or the kids who wanted the toys or the families whose jobs depended on the survival of the company. And unfortunately, that's a common thing. See, what happens when you succeed, whether it's as a pro athlete or a small company becoming a large company or a large company becoming a larger company, is that at some point you have so many players in the mix that you can't really control them all. You don't have direct influence over them all. And when you don't have direct influence, the only hope you have of keeping the ship moving in the right direction is that you started with primary core values to begin with. We've seen a lot of stories recently of athletes who are playing in the NFL, and these guys are putting 10% aside, or they're putting 90% aside and living on the 10%, or they're at least putting 40% aside. And everybody's astonished. They're like, oh my gosh, why would you make that much money and then not spend it all? Well, the reality is many of them have aspirations beyond their professional sports, beyond basketball, beyond hockey, beyond baseball, beyond football. They look at their life and go, one day I want to have a family. I want to settle down. I want to run my own business. I want to live a secure life longer than right now. And rather than spending every dollar that comes into my hands, I'm going to find a way to set it away, to set it aside, to build wealth for the long term. See, that's a core value. That's a principle. And there are a whole lot of people who look at it and say, well, if I can make an extra $50 a day or an extra $500 a day or an extra $5,000 a day, I'll spend $5,000 or $500 or $50 today. There's got to be a core value in the decisions that you make, a principle that causes you to decide what you decide. And when you have that, whether it's an individual, a pro athlete, a small company becoming large, or a large company becoming larger, when you're driven by those core values, you will always do the right thing. And surround yourself with people who share those core values, because you will become like the 5 people you surround yourself with. And if all they want to do is get the money at any cost, there's going to be a lot of hurt people in the wake. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.